Okay, we're starting out this video by me asking you a personal question. And here it goes. Have you ever not told a story that's related to your personal brand about a challenge that you had to overcome because it's just simply too personal? What if I told you that that's probably the story that makes you the most credible choice for your ideal client? We're going to get into exactly how to tell those kind of stories so that they resonate with your ideal client, but they don't violate your boundaries. I am talking about telling authentic stories that don't involve setting yourself up to be hurt and vulnerable. We're going to talk about vulnerability in a little bit, but let's just start with this. First, the reason that you need to talk about your challenges as part of building your personal brand is because you're not credible if you're just talking about your successes. Okay, so there's a balance, and it's important that we connect the story. Just think about every movie you've ever watched that you absolutely love. It's like this. Opening scene and everything is fine. It's great. And then our main character shows up and something happens. And that main character then has to rise to the occasion. They have to overcome the obstacles and the challenges. We are cheering for them to do that. That's the story that we really like to hear, is the hero's journey, our journey. And throughout the course of the movie, they're going to overcome a challenge and then something else is going to happen. And they're going to overcome a challenge and then some other shit's going to go down. And that's the story. Your story's like that too. Now, if you talk about some of those stories and in a certain way, then your audience is going to feel more connected to you. You're going to be more relatable to them because they're going through those things too. Here's the point of connection that you need to have. You need to be talking about something that you went through that they're probably also going through. You have an authority piece. I know that I can help you. And there's an authenticity piece, an empathy piece that says, I understand, and here's how I can help. Let me give you an example of how to do this. All right, say you are a business owner who is painfully introverted. Okay, going to a networking meeting is the worst thing I can think of. I don't know how to do small talk. I get really nervous. I shake. I feel nauseous. And as a matter of fact, this one time, I nearly passed out at the door. But I learned how to use my quiet personality in a different way to help me to build a giant network and great success in my business. Now, they didn't say, here's exactly what happened. I passed out and then people had to help me. I went to the hospital. You don't have to go into that much depth. But if your story is stronger, it's a bigger challenge, then anybody who is struggling with the networking is going to go, wow, this person's really going to be able to help me because it's not even that bad for me. And they were able to do it. So I'm sure I'm going to be able to do it. That's what I mean. When you're sharing those big challenge personal stories that are part of your personal brand, the way you present them makes a difference. It needs to have impact, but it shouldn't violate your boundaries. So you're going to kind of blur the background a little bit. You're going to back away from it a bit, give them the vital information, but you don't have to fill in all the details. And you certainly don't need to be on TikTok crying. Okay, so don't shy away from telling your personal stories. Even if they're big ones, there's a way that you can tell them so that it's going to resonate. And it's important because your audience wants to know that you understand them. All right, second point, be authentic, not vulnerable. Vulnerability is fine. Brene Brown, nothing but love for you, okay? But when it comes to building your personal brand, that's not something that you want to lean into really, really hard. It does not help build credibility when you're being super vulnerable. However, when you're being authentic, and I don't mean hashtag authentic, I mean actual authentic, that does build credibility in your brand. Authenticity is going to have to be across the board what you are, what you do. Okay, your personal brand is you. It's your identity. So being authentic should be pretty easy if you're you. Just be you. You be you, boo. Whatever. Anyway, so I'm not talking about vulnerability, and this is why. And it's a misconception that the two things are the same thing. They're not the same thing. They're defined very, very differently. And I think it's important that people understand what the word vulnerability and vulnerable means. I'm going to read you the dictionary definition. Vulnerability, the quality or state of being exposed to the possibility of being attacked or harmed, either physically or emotionally. I am sorry, but I don't know many people who are going to sign up for, let me just be really vulnerable. It's fine if you're being vulnerable when you're talking to your therapist or working through some relationships or whatever. But when you're building a personal brand, that's not the place for vulnerability. I feel like I'm Inigo Montoya. I don't think that word means what you think it means. Most of the time, I find that people don't really actually know what vulnerability means. I just need to be really vulnerable. So you're setting yourself up to be harmed physically or emotionally. And you know that. That's why you are going to spill your guts about whatever? No, not necessary, friend. Not necessary to build your personal brand on vulnerability. Build your personal brand on authenticity instead. You can still tell the big story, but tell it in a way that's not going to make you feel super uncomfortable and actually negatively affect your personal brand. Authenticity is about truthfulness, not about exposing every aspect of your life. It's about sharing relevant experiences that shaped you, not personal details that make you uncomfortable. Keep in mind that authenticity attracts. It's what makes you magnetic. Be more authentic, be more you, and you're going to be more magnetic. Trauma dumping, on the other hand, repels people. There, I said it. Okay, finally, the point of telling these stories is what you overcame and how you help others. This is something that I learned from Donald Miller and from his book that's called Hero on a Mission. So when you are in a challenging situation, when you're trying to overcome a very big challenge, you will feel like you're the victim of a circumstance or a situation. You feel like a victim, but then you can choose one of 4 paths to go on next. And that makes the difference. And one of them is the hallmark of great personal brands, great personal brand building. And I'll tell you what that one is, but not until I tell you the other 3. One path that you could take, and let's say this is on the negative side of the chart. One path you could take is you could maintain your victimhood status, right? You decide that the path you want to take is to stay in that place that broke you. And I know of a woman whose business was built on her telling a traumatic story over and over and over again from stage. And that was incredibly hard on her. She couldn't maintain it. Of course she couldn't, because she was just repeating this very traumatic story. Now, was it helping people? Maybe it was helping some people, but it was destroying her to stay the victim in the story. And so she had to stop doing it. She had to do something else. And so anybody else who could have been helped by her telling the story a little bit differently doesn't get her help anymore, because she doesn't do that business anymore. So be aware that staying the victim of the story doesn't help you and doesn't help them. All right, second choice. If instead you turn to your brokenness and you turn your brokenness into anger and vengeance, then you become the villain of someone else's story. I think you could probably think about instances where this has happened. It's happening quite a lot right now, actually, where a person is in a situation, they feel like they're the victim, they get angry and they want vengeance and they want revenge. And they're building their whole personal brand on that. That's not terribly attractive. It can be attractive, some groups, but they tend, to some audiences, but that tends to result in negative things. And that's not really how you want to build your personal brand. At least I hope it's not. Now let's look at the other side of that graph, the top part of the graph. There are 2 other sections, and one of them is the hero section. So if you were a victim of something, you felt like you had a challenge, you were the victim, but you overcame the challenge, you're the hero. You're the hero of the story, and that's fantastic. However, where you want to be is in the next quadrant, and that's the guide. Every great personal brand and business has a guide element. And the way you become the guide is that you are a victim of something. You overcome that thing, and you take the lessons that you learned from that experience and you create value with it by creating something that's then going to help someone else who's going through the same thing. That's when you become the guide. And that's really the position that you want to be in. So when you're telling the story, make sure you remember the point. And the point is to say, I went through this thing, but I was able to do these things. I understand where you're at, but I know I can help you because I went through something big, and I'm sure that I can help you, and I will light the way. I will guide you towards success for your story. You'll have success in your story. That lends great credibility to your personal brand. Okay, to recap, to sum up, embrace your challenges and be authentically you, and always focus on the lessons and the value that you can bring to others, because of it. If this video resonated with you, feel free to hit the like button, share your thoughts in the comments, and subscribe if you would like more content like this on personal branding. And if you're interested in more kind of motivational stuff, let me know. If you're interested in more practical, tactical stuff, I want to hear that too. Thank you for joining me today. Remember to own your own unique story. There's genius in that, even in the ups and downs of your story. It's what makes your personal brand truly credible and inspiring. Until next time, keep sharing your authentic self. Bye.